Welcome back. Well, it's a new PM, a new look cabinet, but some faces stayed the same. One key one was Finance Minister Senator Matthias Cormann. He joins me now from our Perth studio. Welcome back to the show and welcome back to your same ministry.
Good to be back.
Now, how are you feeling? You glad you escaped all the changes? You happy in the old job?
I love the job I'm doing and I continue to do it to the best of my ability. I mean, there's obviously an important job to be done to put Australia on the strongest possible economic and fiscal foundation for the future, to ensure we're in the best possible position to take advantage of the opportunities that are coming our way as part of the Asia Pacific, and to be in the most resilient position possible in the face of challenges in the global economy that we do have to deal with from time to time.
Okay, well, I want to look forward tonight, but I do have to ask the obvious question. Up until last Monday, you were prosecuting the case for the previous government. That's the one that Malcolm Turnbull said quite clearly was on the wrong economic path. He has come in with what he wants is a whole new narrative and a whole new way to sell it. Given you're in the same job and you were selling the previous economic narrative, how do you change from today?
Well, I mean, obviously everybody knows how I voted last Monday, and you know, I was very open and transparent about that. Malcolm Turnbull knew how I voted, but by the same token, the party made a decision last Monday to make Malcolm Turnbull our leader and to make him our Prime Minister, and as such he has my full and unequivocal support, and I feel privileged that he has asked me to serve in his cabinet and to continue to serve as Minister for Finance. And I mean, you know, that is obviously a vote of confidence by our Prime Minister in the job that I've been doing and in the job that he would like me doing moving forward.
Was there anything about the way, the economic path we were on, the way you were selling it, that warranted the criticism or a dramatic change of leadership, in your opinion?
Well, I mean, Malcolm Turnbull pointed out that in his opinion we could and should be doing better to explain the challenges, the economic challenges that we're facing as a nation, to explain better the opportunities in front of us, and to explain better what we're doing about it and the reasons for our reform agenda, why we're making certain decisions. And you know, I certainly agree we can always do better. As for my own personal contribution to that effort, I've always given it my best. I will continue to give it my best. And as I said, I feel privileged that the Prime Minister has decided to entrust me to continue in this role.
Is it that the message is going to be sold differently, or is what you're selling going to be different? How is what you're talking about now going to be different to how it was last week?
Well, I think you'll find that there will be a great level of continuity. Obviously, the government over the last 2 years, in which both Malcolm Turnbull and Scott Morrison, the new Treasurer, were both senior members. I mean, the previous government did a lot of good work, and the previous government did make a lot of progress over the past 2 years. But you know, we're now in a new era, and we're going to be building further on the progress that we've made over the past 2 years to ensure we're getting ourselves in the best possible position for the future.
Everybody's talking about a new narrative. Is the new narrative meant to be less negative, less of the doom, debt, disaster talk, which was already changing? Is it about innovation and the new economy? I mean, what would you say is the new narrative of the new government?
Well, I mean, if you look at it holistically, since we came into government, I mean, we did inherit a very challenging situation from the previous Labor government, with the economy weakening and rising unemployment and the budget position rapidly deteriorating. I mean, our focus as a government has been, since September 2013, on strengthening growth, creating more jobs, and on getting the budget position back under control. We've made some significant progress. I mean, we were able to shed a lot of the lead that Labor had put into our saddlebag. I mean, our focus as a government over the past 2 years and moving forward has been on making our economy more competitive internationally, on improving our productivity, and yes, on using innovation as a driver for stronger growth into the future. And so there will be a very determined effort to explain the exciting opportunities in front of us, but also to explain what it is that we're doing and why on the economic front.
I can already see one change. You've got a whole, I think, 5 minutes without mentioning the mining tax or the carbon tax. So is this the way we're stopping looking back at the nose and looking forward on what we might do?
Well, when I talked about shedding the lead that Labor had put into our saddlebag, I mean the mining tax and the carbon tax are two big examples. I mean, yeah, but I mean you can laugh about it, but this is a very serious point. I mean, we are a trading nation, we are an export-focused nation, and it is very important for us as an economy to be internationally competitive. And when Labor put burdens into our economy like the carbon tax and the mining tax, which slowed us down, which made it harder for us to be successful, then these were bad decisions by the previous Labor government, which we have already corrected. But moving forward, of course, there is much more work to be done to get us into the best possible position for the future.
Okay, let's look forward. There's a lot of speculation around markets today and in the commentariat saying that you might bring forward MyEFO, which is traditionally out in December and is a bit of a stock take of where we're at, that this might be brought forward to October and there might even be a mini budget. Do you see any merit in that, to sort of recalibrate?
That speculation is wrong, and it must be coming from people who don't really appreciate what is involved in putting together a budget update in an orderly fashion. The MyEFO, the Mid-Year Economic and Fiscal Outlook, the half-yearly budget update, will come out in December as planned, and the reason we're putting it out in December is because, of course, we want to have access to the national accounts data for the third quarter, so that we have got the most current economic information, analysis and information to underpin our forecasts available. You know, I don't really know where that speculation comes from. I mean, obviously I've been having a number of conversations with the Treasurer, and I've been having a number of conversations with the Prime Minister, and you know, our position is very clear. Our half-yearly budget update will happen in December as planned, and of course there's a lot of work to be done between now and then to ensure that we've got you know, everything in the right place at the right time.
So MyEFO on track for December, and are you also ruling out any mini budget before then?
Well, I mean, look, the description of a mini budget is a description that comes from commentators. We're going to have an update on our budget, on our 15-16 budget in December. That is the Mid-Year Economic and Fiscal Outlook. You know, whether people want to describe that as a mini budget or as a half-yearly budget update, which is what it is, that is a matter for the commentators. Our next budget document, our next budget report, our next update on the state of the budget and on our plans moving forward will be the Mid-Year Economic and Fiscal Outlook in December.
What's your feeling at the moment as Finance Minister on how we're travelling? There was a feeling that the economy had been stagnating, that that was one of the reasons given for the need for a change in leadership. Did you get the feeling that we were in a rut?
Well, I don't believe the economy is stagnating, and I don't believe the Prime Minister or the Treasurer think the economy is stagnating. To the contrary, the Prime Minister, the Treasurer, myself, we're all optimistic about the future and about what lies ahead for the Australian economy. I mean, you've got to look at, if you look at things from a glass half full perspective, I mean, you've got to observe that the Australian economy continues to grow. We are now 25th year of continuous growth, and that is despite the biggest falls in our terms of trade in about 50 years. That is despite significant falls in the prices that we're able to achieve for our key commodities on global markets. And when other commodity-based economies like Brazil and Canada are in recession, the Australian economy continues to grow, which is, of course, an indicator that you know, the Australian economy is you know, quite resilient, and that we have been doing some good work in recent years in getting some of that lead out of our saddlebag and getting ourselves in a more competitive position. But there is more work to be done into the future, and of course we want to strengthen growth and create more jobs moving forward, in particular on the back of a serious focus on the opportunities from innovation.
Well, you certainly sound quite positive there, but we saw a rather negative report from the NAB this morning claiming, quote, we're toast, our economy. Do you think that sounded too negative?
Well, if that's what they're saying, I haven't seen that report, but that certainly sounds excessively negative and doesn't sound doesn't sound in line with the data and the economic data and information that I am privy to. And you know, one of the missing ingredients out of our economic story in Australia in recent times has been related to confidence, and if you look at what's been happening to consumer and business confidence in recent days on the back of the recent change in leadership, then obviously I think that is a very promising indicator of what might lie ahead.
Yes, now that's a very key point, and I said in my editorial, it's all very well for them to say that confidence is up. We saw this in 2013 when your government was elected, but business never actually came to the party. They never put their hands in their pocket. They spend their money reinvesting and paying out in dividends. Are you hoping this time business will actually put their money where their mouth is and start investing in the economy?
Well, you've got to look at the global economic conditions at the time. I mean, there was obviously, significant upheaval on the back of, significantly lower prices for our key commodities. I mean, the price for iron ore went from a high of $180 a ton to in the 50s now. The price for coal fell, and the price for a series of other key commodities is much lower now than what it has been. So, of course, I mean, in that sort of context, that does work its way through the economy. That does have an impact through the economy. It does have an impact on confidence, and it does have an impact on the decisions that people make in terms of investment. But where we are at now, and don't take my word for it, the governor of the Reserve Bank himself has also indicated that the economy is in much better shape than what you'd think just from reading the newspapers. And I mean, over time, the reality does work its way through into the public consciousness, and obviously the change in leadership last week seems to have triggered a significant boost in confidence that over time I'm sure will play out in the economy as a whole.
Okay, you talked about global factors. What was your opinion on the Fed decision to not do lift-off, to hold off on lifting interest rates, which sort of gave an indication they're a bit worried about things like China? How concerned are you about US conditions, China, all the things that have made them hold off?
Look, I'm not a commentator even on the decisions of our own Reserve Bank, let alone the Reserve Bank in the US. So I'm going to leave that to the economic analysts and the forecasters. My job is to focus on the policy areas that we have direct control over. As far as I'm concerned, I mean, that relates in particular and principally to government expenditure. And my job, of course, is to continue to focus on getting spending growth under control and to ensure that government spending is as efficient and as effective as possible. And as part of the broader economic team, we're focused on the policies that will help make our economy more competitive, more productive, more innovative, so that we can strengthen growth into the future, and so that we are in the best possible position to take advantage of the opportunities in the Asia Pacific. I mean, the exciting thing, Janine, is that we live in the part of the world where most of the economic growth in the world will be generated over the next few decades, and there will be lots of opportunity, but we do need to be much fit. We do need to ensure we're in the best possible position to take advantage of those opportunities.
And just very quickly, because we've run out of time, can you sum up your opinion on the new Treasury you'll be working with?
I've got a very good personal relationship. I've got a very good working relationship with Scott Morrison. Obviously, I've worked with him very closely in his two previous roles in the Abbott government as Immigration Minister and as Social Services Minister, when he was looking after more than a third of our budget. And I very much look forward to working with him very closely in his new role.
Thank you very much for your time tonight, Senator Matthias Cormann.
Always good to talk to you.